Hi, good afternoon. Just a quick recap on Saturday's game. Obviously the ability to have a nice performance at home is welcoming, but I think as we got a chance to look at the film in more detail, having some players that have not played significant roles, having them step up and play very well was very pleasing. I think defensively, a couple of guys stood out. Some of our young defensive linemen played well. Linebackers, Bo Bauer played well. Certainly from an offensive standpoint, Braden Lenzy had two really nice plays. Javon McKinley. So it's for us, Seaboth Leominster had a number of opportunities that were not necessarily in ball-carrying situations, but in blocking, ran hard on a couple of occasions. So overall, it was really pleasing to watch a lot of young players get an opportunity to go in and produce. And anytime you put together a win like that at home, it was good to see, and it obviously will do well for us as we continue to move forward. A lot of our veteran players played very steady football for us. There's some areas that we can always get better at, and that's part of the evaluation as well. So when we do our well, better, learned, there's some things that we did well, certainly. Some things that we're going to have to do better against the opposition that we're playing this weekend. And I think we learned a lot about our football team. So that was this past weekend. The competition that we're playing this weekend will certainly require us to play our very best. Kirby Smart and the Georgia program are synonymous with winning and being successful, and we're quite aware of that. We played them a couple of years ago in a hard-fought game, which we came up short. So, again, we know the talent that they have. Offensively, an outstanding offensive line. I think they got 4 or 5 starters back there. Andrew Thomas is probably a first-round draft pick, but they're extremely physical, and a big offensive line that moves very, very well and protects Jake Fromm very well. Jake Fromm, obviously played as a freshman against us and showed great poise, and has continued to, obviously develop to being one of the premier quarterbacks in college football, throwing the ball at 75% completion percentage. He's an outstanding player, can make all the throws. Plays with great confidence. He has a great offensive line. He's got great weapons around him. Andre Swift at the running back position, Heron Cook. I mean, they have probably 5 running backs that can touch the field and do great things with the ball in their hands. Pickens, a young player, is coming along. They've got Cager, who's the transfer from Miami, who's long and athletic. Blaylock in the slot looked really good last week. So they've got great weapons all around them, great offensive line, great quarterback. I don't know what else you say about them. It's just a very balanced offense that can run it, can throw it, a quarterback that manages it extremely well. And that's before you even get to the defense that, obviously Kirby takes great pride in that defense and certainly has developed a great group again. This one's talented, but it's really deep as well. The depth that they have, especially on the defensive line, that they can run, 6, 7, we counted, I think, last night 8 guys that are interchangeable within their 3 and 4 down structure. All of them productive players, and that's not even counting Rochester. The guy that's been out, he's a great player too. So both inside linebackers back. I think Reed's been there since, we remember him being all over the field against us a couple years ago. Campbell, Stokes, the corners, again, SEC top-level defense, well coached, and attacking when they want to, and can play zone coverage, man coverage. Again, probably not telling anybody here what you haven't seen. It's all true. It's all true. Very, very good defense, depth, talent at every position, experience, and I think more than anything else, you know, from our perspective, probably the deepest defense that we've seen, in the sense that they can keep bringing players at you. We've seen some really great defenses over the last few years, but haven't had the kind of depth that they have. Can kick it, great kicker, punter, have all the tools, no perceived weaknesses in this group. So we'll try to muster together 22 guys, get them on a plane, go down to Athens, and see what we can do. With that, open up to questions.
Brian, how would you evaluate your offensive line play to this point, and what's kind of out there for them to chase as they go through the season?
I don't know. We're 2 games into it. You know, we're still evolving. They were, you know, not asked to do, you know, a lot of things on Saturday. You know, we put a lot of points on the board. So, I mean, there's no grades that we're giving out right now as a complete offense or a complete defense. We're 2 games into the season. We need to continue to improve. We need to continue to get better. We need to coach better. We need to play better. So, I mean, it's where we should be probably after week 2, in that process of working to get better as a unit, individually, and finding what works best for the group relative to where we want to go.
Without giving away trade secrets, what specifically do you want to see from them at this point? Where's their evolution path going? What do they need to do better?
Well, I just think, you know, overall, you know, each week is a different plan. You know, I don't know that there's anything specific. I mean, we put 60-something points on the board. You know, I think we could critically evaluate every position. We just want to see each one of our players continue to grow, continue to get better, continue to prepare the right way. And again, I think a lot of it is we want to have guys that, you know, are getting better each week. That to us is more important than any one particular play or play call. I thought they showed good resolve. If they had a negative play, they came back the next play and you know, we're fighting. So, you know, we're not a finished product. We'll keep working at it. They've got the group that we're working with on the offensive side of the ball. We've got some guys that really care, and we really like them. It's the group that we'll work with each and every week. There's nobody that we're trading for, and we expect them to get better.
With your defensive line, your pass rush hasn't shown a lot of sacks, and yet I think where it shows up for you is you're 3rd in the country in pass efficiency defense. Is that okay for you that it shows up that way, or do you need to see sacks and hurries for you to feel like they're moving in the right direction?
They're doing a great job. The ball comes out so fast, Eric. I mean, it's under, most of the time, under 2 seconds where the ball is coming out, both against Louisville and in New Mexico. You know, we just got to clean up some of the penalties on the perimeter, but you know, we're getting exactly what we want in terms of, you know, pressuring the quarterback, making him get the ball out of his hands quickly. Those guys are doing a nice job for us.
Avery Davis was a guy that you're pretty excited about his potential as a corner. Now that he's playing offense, do you feel like he has that kind of future at running back, you know, a future that goes beyond college based on his skills?
Well, we saw it. I mean, he ran almost 23 miles per hour. We haven't had that since Will Fuller. So we know he's got elite speed. You know, again, I think this has been much more about trying to find him playing time. We know we know his skill set. I felt that way when we moved him to defense, that he had the skill set. It was just getting him on the field and getting him an opportunity. So, you know, I probably didn't answer the question the same way. A skill set is one thing. It's getting him the opportunity. And I think he has the best chance of getting those opportunities on the offensive side of the ball right now.
And last one from me. Yesterday you felt pretty optimistic about Cole, and you thought that there would be some finality to your decision about Saturday. Is he going to be able to start for you on Saturday?
Yeah, he's going to play on Saturday.
Coach, the Mexico game in the fourth quarter seemed like a good opportunity to get Phil Dracovic some more work. Was there a reason he only played one series there?
Yeah, we wanted to be careful with him. I think I had mentioned this, that he was nursing a thigh contusion, and he got hit a couple of times where we felt like we wanted to be careful with him. So he did some good things. We saw what we wanted to see, pushed the ball down the field vertically, made a couple of tough runs. So we saw what we needed to see in that situation.
Brian, you mentioned some young guys being able to make some plays in the New Mexico game, and even Javon McKinley and Avery Davis, who've been here a while, aren't young guys, but are inexperienced. Does making plays in a game like New Mexico give you enough confidence that they can contribute in a game like Georgia?
Oh, absolutely, no doubt. You know, again, a lot of this is just about the ability to have the confidence to go out there and do it. Chase Claypool, too. I mean, look, it's still about a standard. You know, when you catch the ball and you run over three people, regardless of who they are, you know, go ahead, take that and show that on film. Chase Claypool looks pretty good, regardless, universally, depending on the opponent. It really doesn't matter. So all of those guys just needed the opportunity to go up there and make a catch. You know, Lindsey needed to go up there and make a catch and take the ball away and run through a tackle. So there's no doubt, you know, the competition will be greater, but you need to make some plays to build that inner confidence that you can do it all the time.
Jared Patterson's a young guy who you have relied on at center. Have you thought about his play in his first two career starts?
Yeah, I think it's been good. I mean, again, he's far from where he wants to be, where we need him to be, but he's made great progress as a first-time starter. And it's been with somebody on his nose. Hasn't had an easy way about it. We haven't talked about bad snaps. We haven't talked about, you know, false start penalties. We haven't talked about it. You know, this offense has done a great job with ball security. They've done a great job with not having a lot of penalties and sloppiness in the first 2 weeks. So a lot of really good things to build on.
And then last one for me, the offense has started fast against Louisville, not so fast against New Mexico. How do you make sure that it starts fast against Georgia?
Well, you know, there's factors in there. You know, I thought that they, obviously, there's a couple of plays here and there that you look at, but I thought all in all the team was ready to play. You know, and when we look at our plays that we scripted, we felt really good about them. So we expect that our guys will execute at a high level, and they'll need to each and every week, but nothing really alarming relative to whether we got off to a good start or a bad start.
All right, Brian. The road warrior mentality that you keep talking about, you guys keep talking about, have you done that sort of off-season workout thing with the logos of each opponent coming up, as they mentioned? You guys did, Bayless did, and how much thought went into doing it that way to plant the seed? And how many times do you think you've used road warrior mentality as a phrase since last season ended?
I've done it other times in my career.
Okay.
Matt and I sit down and we plan out the themes that we want in the spring. We set it to a you know, an overall theme in terms of how we set that workout up. There's a video, there's a presentation, and it's really to build a mindset. Whether it's protecting the house that we play in, that mentality, or going on the road. Those are important elements within the entire year. So being on the road and being able to build that mindset is really what this has been about. certainly we're going to need that again this week against Georgia.
And then you mentioned on the call yesterday the series was appealing for recruiting purposes partially to go into Georgia. But what's kind of the story of Georgia as a recruiting spot for you since you got here? Why have you been so successful in the last few years, and where could it go going forward now that you've planted the flag?
Well, obviously the high school football is outstanding. We have felt like it has matched what we're looking for relative to high quality, excellence in the classroom as well, in the schools that we are targeting, and certainly from a football standpoint. So our mission is excellence in graduating all of our players and playing for championships. And so the schools that we're targeting in the state of Georgia have a similar batch of schools that we feel like demographically we can hit, and they match the Notre Dame kind of model that we want from our recruiting base.
Brian, I wonder if you would talk about depth over the last couple of years. Have you developed it, maybe even from the last time you played Georgia? When you play teams of elite teams like that, what's that tell you, what they have depth-wise and what you guys needed to get to?
Well, I like our depth too. You know, I think we have great depth on our defensive line. I was talking about Georgia's, but maybe Kirby is talking about our talent and our depth right now at his press conference. So, no, I think we've developed that. I think we saw that on display against New Mexico, that we've got the kind of depth necessary to compete nationally. You know, we still it's recruiting every year. You know, I know they had to go out and they had to address the outside linebacker position within their program. You know, we have areas that we have to address every year. So it's an ongoing battle in this recruiting process that you're never exactly where you want to be. You're always trying to, you know, augment and strengthen areas. But I think we're at a point within our program where we feel good about where we are, but yet we're always looking to strengthen the depth of our program. We're in a much better position, but one where we need to always address every year.
Brian, you mentioned Komet's starting against Georgia. What does he bring to the offense?
I didn't say he was starting. I said Komet's cleared to play.
Is he clear? What does he bring to the offense?
Well, he's a big, physical player. Obviously, can catch it. He's what you're looking for in a tight end, right? He's a guy that can control the point of attack with his physicality. He can go down the field. He can catch the football, and he balances it out now with, you know, two other tight ends that give us versatility within our formations, where, you know, you could have two players on the field that, or three at times, where you could break that formation out, and, you know, now you've got to cover them with base, you know, personnel, and they're difficult to cover. So it gives you a lot of flexibility relative to your personnel matchups.
How good has Dalen Hayes been for you so far?
Been really good. He's played very well this first 2 weeks, and shown a consistency in his performance. And at the point of attack, you know, there's been that extra kind of step for him in everything that he's done.
Brian, when you look at Drew White, I don't think he was on the top of most people's list when it came fall camp opening that he would become the starting Mike linebacker. What did he do to earn that spot?
You know, I think he's just been a pretty consistent player for us. You know, he's communicated well. You know, the Mike linebacker needs to get people lined up. I think he's been a very effective communicator. And he's done a job that we've asked him to do, and that has not been one that has been very difficult. We haven't put him in a position where he's got to do a ton of things. We've asked him to do some things, and he's done a nice job at really being consistent at it. So, you know, he's got some work to continue to do. He has not arrived. He's been a really consistent player for us, and one that he's going to have to continue to do that.
Drew was a little vague when we asked him about the coach's reaction when he heard himself skiing. What was the coach's reaction when you guys got that news?
Well, I think it's important that, anybody that, puts himself in a position where, you could, get injured and you're on scholarship, you have to be very cognizant and careful. I'm going to get this fly. I'm going to get it. But you have to be, you have to be careful and cognizant of those things. I have no problem with going on a family vacation, but you're also on a scholarship. And, it's unfortunate what happened. The good part about it, it's behind us. He worked through it. He worked really hard, got himself back in it, and it's behind him. But it was a message to our entire team that, driving recklessly or putting yourself in harm's way while you're on scholarship can really, put yourself in a tough position when you're getting your schooling paid for and a full scholarship. It can be a difficult situation, and I think he learned a lot from it. I think our team did as well.
Brian, you said a lot of things about Georgia that is evidence of why they're such a highly ranked team, but what are one or two things about them specifically that you think makes them a really difficult team to beat?
The quarterback. He's efficient. He's unflappable. You can pressure him, and he doesn't panic. He makes great decisions. He's sound with the ball. And it generally, look, when you get down to the really great teams, you're going to get Trevor Lawrence. You're going to get, you're going to get the great quarterbacks are going to be the reason why they start to separate. And Fromm is one of those guys that gets you to start to separate.
You talked a little about what you've done in the preseason to create a road warrior mentality. What specifically will you do this week to try and prepare them for the noise, the atmosphere, all the stuff that's coming their way Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, we'll prepare them. They know that we have to prepare for the kind of environment that they're going to go into, and we'll address it today. We'll work on it during the week. We've got an indoor facility that will be, you guys have been in there. We can make that as loud as we want it to. It's going to be hot here too, so the weather will be warm, so there won't be any excuses relative to acclimatizing to the weather conditions. So we'll prepare them for all those. But the most important thing will be how we prepare. I mean, it'll be in our preparation. If we do a great job preparing, we can go play the game and play fast and play free, and then the best team wins. So it'll be in our preparation. It won't be because the crowd was loud or that it was hot, or it'll be because they executed better than we executed. So at the end of the day, it'll still be about our preparation and how we execute.
You said earlier today that you learned a lot about your team against New Mexico. What's the one thing that you learned that maybe makes you the most confident about your chances this weekend?
I think mostly that this football team is one that can score, that can make big plays, and that from a defensive standpoint, when everybody's doing their job, is very stingy. I think that we had a couple of breakdowns where guys were fundamentally not on their job, but when we are fundamentally doing our job, play in and play out, we're a pretty stingy defense.
Brian, you guys played obviously Clemson only 2-3 games ago in your prep. Do you look at any of that tape this week going against another elite team like Georgia? Do you look at that Clemson tape at all and try to?
No, there's no real similarities in terms of what they do defensively or offensively. So this is really about preparation for a team that runs 3 down, 4 down, and an offense that is much different.
And then, I mean, reputations usually are attached to games like these, legacies and things like that. I know you don't like to wax poetic, I believe is the phrase you like to say a lot, but for a game like this, do you think about that at all, and what are your thoughts on this potentially being the biggest win in your tenure here at Notre Dame?
No, it's not even part of what we do for preparation. To me, it's about our players. It's about our coaches giving them a great game plan. It's about my job to make sure that we put together the best possible preparation for our team. The rest of that stuff, I really could care less about.
Brian here. I'll just go back to Dalen Hayes. Talking about the game on Saturday, he said that he's really kept everything in perspective, maybe in a different way than he had earlier in his career. Where is he sort of that he's able to just sort of go play, opposed to having pressure on him, and, maybe not reaching the potential that he has?
He's a lot more focused. I wouldn't say that he was distracted at times, but maybe he was more interested in the net outcome. He's so much more focused on details, pays attention to the details of his position so much more, and being part of the defense, being part of the 11 guys, and he's benefiting from that. It's a much more focused player, driven by the fact that maybe he's been overshadowed a little bit, and he's playing with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and that's a good thing.
At the linebacker position, at what point in the season, if at all, do you feel like you want to condense that rotation from, I think you may have played 8 against New Mexico.
Well, I would say to you that, like any coach, if 2 guys emerged clearly and said, we're your 2, we would go that way. I'll give you the last evaluation that I have, and that is we saw some really good things from Asmar. Closed on the ball. His lines were better to the football. He's really getting to that point where he's playing and closing space to the football with really high-level elite traits. I mean, the guy's got traits. I mean, physical traits. So now he's bringing along some of the things that he was lacking experientially in terms of playing the position. We're starting to see that. So that's coming. Bo Bauer played at times out of control. He's playing so much more in control. And so we're seeing a guy that's not overrunning a play, but staying in the backside B gap and bouncing and doing some things. So we're getting guys that are just evolving. So we're still in that process. And then all the other guys are playing pretty good too. So I just think we're just going to keep letting this thing play out until we find it. And when we find them, we're going to have 2 really good players in there.
Thanks.
Brian, on Saturday, you graduated a 4-year punter, a 4-year place kicker. Special teams looked like it'd be a project. You get a punt inside the 5, you get a kickoff return to really get things going. Special teams, I thought, was outstanding, kind of overshadowed by what else happened, but I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that, first of all, I like our players' attention to how important special teams is, especially with 2 young players at the helm in the kicking positions. You see a lot of veterans on those teams, from Alohi Gilman to Troy Pride to, I don't know if you guys watched, but Chase Claypool was crazy good on punt coverage. I mean, you've got your elite players playing on special teams. That rubs off to the younger players. I mean, if you're a young player and you watch the best players in your program playing hard on special teams, it has a great trickle-down effect to everybody else. So we're getting that, plus we're getting our younger players playing at a high level. And we're going to do that again this week. We're bringing up a couple other guys on special teams to give them a chance. We've got those 4 games to use, and we need to add a little bit more to it, and we're going to see a couple more games this week.
The other question I had is about the patience that sometimes you really need to show, as you did against Louisville, as you did Saturday.
I thought you were talking about my patience.
Well,
Thank you.
Okay, I've seen you wait for a putt, but your patience on Saturday offensively, I thought, was impressive. You don't know what they're going to do until they get on the field, and they've had a week to prepare for you. And then you made adjustments as you went along. You said, "Look, if you're not going to eliminate our deep route, and you don't think we're gonna throw it, here you go.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, we had a plan that we wanted to do some things, and they weren't going to let us do it. So you've got to make some adjustments. As you saw, it was pretty easy to get the ball outside. We wanted to try to run the ball inside. We were going to run inside zone. They weren't going to allow us to run inside zone. So then you've got to make some adjustments. We made some adjustments and opened up some pretty easy plays for us. So that's part of the deal. You've got to prod. You've got to figure out, make some adjustments on the sideline. I thought we did a nice job, and we're able to open up the offense. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.